Oprah Winfrey and brain and trauma expert Dr. Bruce Perry co-wrote a New York Times bestselling book called What Happened to You? Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing. I haven't read the book, but my understanding is it considers the impact of trauma on behavior and how we would better understand why people do what they do if we factor in their story, their trauma, and their experiences. Most of the time, when we see something that appears off about a person, we ask, "What is wrong with you?" But the book suggests we ask instead, "What happened to you?" which is a more compassionate and empathetic approach. Today's episode is inspired by the book's concept because God's people are taught to be compassionate, but I'm not sure that always plays out in our day-to-day interactions with people, especially those we don't understand or who are a bit more difficult to engage with. In Philippians 2:3 says this, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves." Consider, that word means to think about, to give weight to take seriously. So we have to think about others when dealing with them. Don't make every interaction and relationship and conversation about you. But we live in a world that's quick to judge, right? Quick to label, quick to write people off, quick to block or cancel. But God is calling us to something different. He's calling us to compassion. And compassion starts with understanding, or at least having a desire to understand. You know, there's an expression that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. A perspective shift from what's wrong with you to what happened to you changes everything. How you view the other person, how you approach them, how you interact with them. Understanding someone's story helps us better understand their behavior, and understanding their behavior leads to a compassion that opens the door to the kind of love that actually changes lives for the better. When someone is difficult, our flesh wants to criticize, right? We want to fix them. We want to label them, point our fingers at them, talk about them, distance ourselves from them. But Proverbs 18 verse 13 warns us to answer before listening is folly and shame. Most of us are answering and labeling people we've never really heard or listened to. When you ask, "What's wrong with you?" you're putting yourself above them. You're the judge. They're the case or the problem. You're the answer. They're the question. You are the one who has it all together. They are a mess. And even if they are a mess, you are not helping them do better by pointing fingers at or judging them. But when you ask what happened to you or show compassion, you're seeking to understand. You're making room for their humanity. That question doesn't excuse bad behavior. It doesn't mean you justify sin or accept mistreatment. But it does mean you're willing to see the whole person, not just their moment of failure or a moment that frustrated you. You understand that they may have failed, but they are not a failure. Jesus illustrates this beautifully in John chapter 8 when the Pharisees and teachers of the law brought before him a woman who was caught in the act of adultery. They told Jesus that the law says she must be stoned. Jesus didn't reinforce their judgment or point out the obvious sin. He instead told her accusers, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone." And Romans 3:23 tells us we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So Jesus was simply pointing out this biblical truth. And when he did that, they walked away one by one. Jesus then said to the woman, "There's nobody left to condemn you." And he would not condemn her either and said something really powerful to her. "Go and sin no more." Jesus, who is all-knowing, did not need to ask that woman what happened to her to cause her to do what she did. He already knew. So he redeemed her instead. He showed compassion. He extended grace while not in any way excusing what she did, but offering her a better way to live going forward. That is what we're called to do when we come alongside people and help them. Galatians 6:1 says, "If anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore them in a spirit of gentleness, keeping watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted." Now, according to Galatians 6:1, we are to gently restore people who have fallen and consider our humanity and our frailty or our propensity to sin while doing so. The purpose is restoration. It is not browbeating. That is all I have for today. Join me next week for part 2 of this discussion of making that perspective shift from the judgmental approach of what's wrong with you to the more compassionate one of what happened to you. Thanks for joining me today on Try Again with Monique. Remember, no matter what you're facing, as long as there's breath in your lungs, there's an opportunity to grow and try again. If this episode inspired you, please share it with someone, subscribe to the podcast, and follow me on social media to stay connected. For more episodes and resources, please visit tryagainwithmonique.com. Until next time, stay faithful, stay strong, my friends, and remember, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible.